After years of 9/11 shifts, my sister dumped her 5 kids on me for a family vacation. I walked out of the airport, vanished to another city, and finally learned what peace really feels like. Hey Reddit, so something happened that flipped my whole life upside down in the best way possible. It started with one family vacation that wasn't really a vacation at all, and me finally deciding I'd had enough. I'm a paramedic, used to chaos and emergencies, but nothing prepared me for the kind that comes from your own family. Let's just say, one decision at an airport changed everything. I, Ian, 27 male, work as a 911 paramedic. That basically means my phone never stops ringing, my sleep schedule doesn't exist, and I've seen more chaos in a week than most people do in a lifetime. If I'm not speeding through traffic to someone's worst day, I'm in the ER covered in someone else's blood, or listening to a dispatcher yell another call number. Some days it feels like I'm just living between sirens. I've been doing this for years now. I love the job, don't get me wrong, but it eats you alive if you don't draw a line somewhere. I just never learned how to draw one, mostly because of how I grew up. My dad walked out when I was 7. My sister Kimberly was 10. I remember the day, him standing by the door with a duffel bag, mom screaming that he was selfish, and me clutching a toy truck like that was going to fix anything. After that, he was gone. No calls, no letters, just silence. Mom told us he didn't care about us, that he was a quitter who ruined her life. She'd sit at the kitchen table at night and tell me, "Don't ever be like your father, Ian. Promise me." When you hear that kind of thing every week for years, it sinks in deep. I spent my whole life trying to be the opposite of him. Responsible, reliable, never walk away, never say no. And honestly, that became its own kind of prison. Mom raised us alone, but she made sure I knew it. Every achievement of mine came with a reminder of her sacrifice. Every mistake was proof I was slipping into his pattern. Meanwhile, Kimberly could do no wrong. She was the golden child, loud, spoiled, confident, always going through something. By the time I hit my 20s, Kimberly was married to Phil, this wannabe entrepreneur who calls himself a businessman. They had 5 kids, and suddenly Kimberly's whole identity became overwhelmed mom. Mom worshipped her for it. Family events were like reruns of the same bad show. Kimberly would show up late, dump her 5 kids on me before she even took off her sunglasses, and head straight for the couch to rest. Mom would smile and say, "You're such a good brother, Ian," while I tried to keep 5 sugar-loaded children from destroying the living room. I became the family handyman, chauffeur, emergency contact, and unpaid babysitter all rolled into one. Need the garage door fixed? Ian will do it. Kids have a fever? Every time I tried to say no, Mom would hit me with that same guilt trip tone. You know, your father would have said no too. Is that who you want to be? That line worked on me for years. Until recently. Last month, I'd pulled a 36-hour stretch, 2 car crashes, a heart attack, and a call involving a guy who thought he could outrun a train. I got home at 5 a.m., showered, and was about to collapse when my phone started buzzing again. It was Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then it buzzed again, and again. By the 5th call, I answered. "Ian," she said, like she'd been holding her breath for 5 years. "I have good news. We're all going on a family vacation. Cancun. A whole week. I already paid for everything." I blinked. "You... what? Flights? Hotel? Food? Everything. Phil and Kimberly are bringing the kids. It'll be perfect. You need a break, and I won't take no for an answer." There it was. The trap disguised as kindness. I told her I had shifts lined up, but she cut me off. "You can swap them. You never take time for family. I thought this would be a good way to reconnect. You'll love it, sweetheart." Translation. She wanted her built-in helper on the trip. I sat there staring at the wall, half asleep and half annoyed. Cancun sounded great in theory. Blue water, quiet mornings, maybe an actual chance to breathe. But I knew my family. Vacation to them meant I'd be herding kids while Kimberly got a tan and Phil drank overpriced mocktails by the pool. Still, Mom kept pushing. "I'm paying for everything," she reminded me again, like I should feel grateful. "You deserve it." And that was the thing, she wasn't wrong. I did deserve a break. I just doubted I'd get one. But she kept calling every few days, reminding me about the itinerary, the family dinners, the bonding moments. Eventually, I gave in. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe I just didn't have the energy to argue anymore. Or maybe, somewhere deep down, I hoped this time it'd actually feel different. So I said yes. I told myself it's just 1 week. 1 week of smiling, nodding, and pretending everything's fine. I've survived worse: car crashes, cardiac arrests, and people screaming in my face. How bad could my family be compared to that? Turns out, I was about to find out exactly how bad. 2 weeks before the trip, my phone buzzed while I was finishing up paperwork at the station. It was a text from Kimberly. Hey, so Mom said we're short on rooms at the resort. You don't mind sharing with the kids, right? You're great with them. I stared at the screen for a second, trying to decide if it was a joke. Nope. She was serious. I hadn't even replied yet when another message came through. Also, you'll watch them at the pool during the day, right? Phil and I really need some adult time. There it was. The mask came off before the trip even started. I didn't even bother typing back. I called her. She picked up sounding chipper. Hey, little brother. So excited for... Kimberly, I interrupted. I'm gonna stop you right there. If this vacation turns into me being your free babysitter again, I'm not coming. She laughed. That fake, high-pitched laugh she does when she's caught. Oh my God, Ian, don't be dramatic. You love the kids. I like them, I said flatly. Big difference. You're their mom. Maybe try parenting them on your vacation. Silence. Then she huffed. You really need to loosen up. It's a vacation, not a job. Exactly, I said. So don't make it one for me. I hung up before she could spin it into another guilt trip. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. Mom. Of course. She didn't even say hello. Ian, I just got off the phone with your sister. What's this attitude about? Attitude? I said. She's trying to make me share a room with her kids and watch them while she relaxes. That's not a vacation. Oh, Ian, Mom sighed, dragging out my name like it was exhausting her. You always assume the worst. This trip is for family connection, not conflict. Don't ruin it before it starts. Then tell Kimberly to stop planning my schedule. Your sister is under a lot of pressure, Mom said. She's been running around nonstop. You have no idea what it's like with 5 kids. Yeah, I said. You're right. I don't, because I didn't have 5 kids. She did. That didn't go over well. She started in on her usual speech about being the bigger person and not acting like your father. I didn't say another word. I just let her talk herself out and then said, fine, but I'm warning you right now. If this turns into another setup, I'm walking out. Don't test me this time. She made this dismissive noise, half sigh, half laugh. You're overthinking it, Ian. You'll see. It's going to be wonderful. I could practically hear her waving me off through the phone. The next few days were quiet. I worked 3 more shifts, patched up 2 stabbing victims, and responded to a crash on the freeway. Every time I got home, I'd see the Cancun itinerary Mom sent in our group chat. Family dinner on the beach. Resort spa day. Couples massage for Kimberly and Phil. Yeah, real subtle. A few days before the trip, I decided to do something I'd never done before. Pack light. 1 backpack, a few shirts, swim trunks, sneakers, and my wallet. If I needed to leave early, I wasn't hauling luggage across an airport. The night before the flight, Mom called again, her tone overly cheerful. Just checking that you're all packed. We leave at 7 sharp. You're picking everyone up, right? Yeah, I said. But let's get something straight. If this goes sideways, I'm not sticking around. Oh, honey, she said, laughing like it was a joke. You always say that. I've never meant it more. The next morning came too early. I pulled into Mom's driveway at 3:30. Kimberly and Phil were already outside, surrounded by more luggage than a family should legally be allowed to own. The kids were running around, screaming about who got which window seat. Uncle Ian, Sophie yelled, jumping onto my leg. Can you carry my bag? Sure, I said, grabbing it. It was pink, glittery, and heavier than it looked, probably packed with every toy she owned. Kimberly walked out sipping her iced coffee, sunglasses on even though the sun wasn't up yet. You're such a lifesaver, she said, shoving another bag into my hands. Phil's back is acting up. Of course it is, I muttered. What was that? Nothing. Just saying I'm glad I lifted all those stretchers for a reason. Mom came out last, checking her phone, fussing over everyone like a tour guide. All right, everyone ready? Ian, make sure you don't drive too fast. Remember, safety first. I opened the van door and said, Relax, Mom. The only thing unsafe here is Phil's sense of direction. Phil laughed like I was joking. I wasn't. The drive to the airport was chaos. Mom kept listing resort rules. Kimberly argued with Phil about which kid forgot their shoes, and I just kept my eyes on the road, wondering how long I'd last before I snapped. I tossed the keys to long-term parking, and we took the shuttle in. As the shuttle pulled up to the terminal, Kimberly said, Oh, by the way, I called the resort. They said the kids' club is full, so you might have to help us out a little during the day. I shouldered a bag, turned to face her, and said, You know what, Kimberly? I think this is going to be the last family trip I ever agree to. She laughed like it was a joke. But I wasn't smiling. The second the shuttle doors slid open, it was chaos. The kids were already fighting over who got to push the suitcase cart. Phil was arguing with Mom about parking fees. Kimberly was too busy taking selfies in front of the terminal, like she was boarding a private jet. Inside, it somehow got worse. The kids ran ahead, weaving through people like little missiles. Mom yelled, "Ian, keep an eye on them!" while trying to print boarding passes she didn't understand. Kimberly stood there, sunglasses on, giving vague orders to nobody. "Ian, can you take this?" She shoved a diaper bag into my chest without looking. Noah's snacks in there, and Sophie's blanket. "Don't lose it." I just stared at her for a second. "You know what's wild? I don't work here, but you'd never know it." She blinked, not even catching the sarcasm. "You're good with this stuff." That line, "you're good with this stuff," was her favorite way of saying you'll do it because you always do. We finally got through TSA, which felt like surviving a war zone. I bent down to tie my shoe, and one of the kids yelled that they were hungry. Kimberly didn't even look up from her phone. "Ian, can you grab them something?" "Sure," I said. "While I'm at it, want me to fly the plane too?" She laughed again, clueless. "You're such a dork." No, I was just done. Kimberly turned to me mid-sentence about the seats and said, loud enough for half the gate to hear, "The kids are all yours on the flight." It wasn't even a question. Just an order wrapped in entitlement. That was it. The switch flipped. All the times I'd said yes when I wanted to say no, every guilt trip, every don't be like your father, every unpaid favor, it all clicked in 1 second. I smiled. A real one this time. Calm, collected. "Sure thing," I said. Kimberly nodded, relieved. "Knew I could count on you." While she turned to tell Phil something about first-class upgrades, I stood up slowly, picked up my backpack, and walked toward the bathroom. My heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't shaking. I just felt done. Inside, I splashed water on my face, looked at myself in the mirror, and asked myself, why the hell am I doing this to myself? I walked out, but not back to the gate. I followed the signs to another terminal. There was a flight leaving for New York City in an hour. No plan, no luggage, no second thoughts, just instinct. I pulled out my phone, bought a one-way ticket, and headed straight for the next gate. The agent scanned my boarding pass at the counter and smiled. "You got lucky. Last seat." "Story of my life," I said. As I walked to the new gate, I could feel my phone buzzing in my pocket. Probably Mom wondering where I went, Kimberly asking for snacks, Phil looking for someone to carry his golf bag. I didn't even pull it out. By the time the boarding call came, I'd turned my phone off completely. I found my seat near the back, stuffed my bag under the chair, and leaned back. Somewhere across the airport, my family was probably still arguing about whose fault it was that I'd wandered off. The flight attendants did their announcements. People settled in, and the engines started to hum. I closed my eyes and felt something I hadn't in years. Silence. No dispatch radio, no screaming kids, no guilt, just quiet. As the plane lifted off, I looked out the window at the clouds and thought, guess this is what peace feels like. By the time we landed at JFK, I hadn't checked my phone once. I didn't care what time it was or who was calling. I just wanted silence. I stepped out into the crisp New York air, threw my backpack over my shoulder, and hailed a cab. No plan, no luggage, no family, just me. The driver looked at me through the mirror. "Where to?" "Somewhere near Midtown." Nothing fancy. I ended up at this small brick hotel wedged between a pizza shop and a laundromat. It smelled like freedom. I dropped my bag, sat on the bed, and laughed quietly to myself. I'd really done it. I'd vanished. Texted 2 old friends from training, Josh and Malik. We hadn't talked in forever, but I figured if anyone understood burnout, it was them. Josh texted back in seconds. "No way. You're in the city? Burgers on me. 6 p.m. at Jake's? Perfect." When I got there, Josh looked the same, grinning like he was permanently in on a joke. Malik showed up a few minutes later, wearing a paramedic hoodie and holding 2 beers for himself. "Bro, I thought you were chained to Texas," Josh said, smacking me on the shoulder. "Yeah, I broke out of prison," I said. "Family vacation kind of prison." They laughed. Malik leaned in. "What happened?" So I told them. About my mom. About Kimberly. About the diaper bags, the chaos, the constant guilt. I didn't even get halfway through before Malik spit out his drink laughing. "Bro, she asked you to share a room with the kids?" "Yep," I said. "And babysit them so she could have adult time." Josh shook his head, grinning. "Man, your family sounds like a sitcom where everyone's insane except the main character." "Exactly," I said. "Except it's not funny when you're the one holding the diaper bag." We talked for hours, swapping old EMT stories. Malik told us about a guy who tried to fake a seizure to get out of a traffic ticket. Josh said he once drove halfway to the hospital before realizing the injured man in his ambulance was a CPR dummy stolen from a training center. By the time we finished eating, my cheeks hurt from laughing. I hadn't felt that light in years. Then, Josh pulled up 2 tickets from his jacket. Hey, I got these last minute. Game at Madison Square Garden tonight. You in? I didn't even think about it. Hell yes. We got seats high enough to see everything but low enough to feel the energy. I didn't check my phone once. I wasn't anyone's babysitter, fixer, or backup plan. I was just a guy, yelling with his friends, eating junk food, and living. Back at the hotel that night, I finally noticed my phone still sitting in airplane mode. Part of me didn't want to turn it on. I knew what was waiting. But curiosity won. The second I flipped it on, it lit up like a Christmas tree. 43 missed calls, 80-something texts, 3 voicemails. The first message was from Mom. Ian, how could you do this? You ruined the entire vacation. Then came Kimberly's all-caps masterpiece. You left us stranded. You're heartless. The kids were crying for you. Another from Mom. Do you have any idea how much money I lost because of you? Even Phil threw one in. Not cool, man. We had to cancel our activities and spent the whole trip running after the kids. You really messed this up. I scrolled through them all, one after another, watching the panic, anger, and guilt-tripping pile up. They weren't worried about me. They were mad they lost their babysitter. I typed one short reply to the group chat. Told you I wasn't babysitting? Then I muted the conversation and tossed the phone on the nightstand. By the time evening hit, I found myself in Times Square, watching the lights flicker across the buildings. A street musician was playing guitar, and a kid was dancing next to him. I stood there for a while, just soaking it in. It hit me then how crazy it was. That peace could come from one decision, one plane ticket, one no after years of, sure, I'll help, no guilt, no noise, no family drama, just me. A week later, I flew back to Texas and drove home from the airport, feeling like a different person. The city air, the laughs, the game, it all cleared my head. For the first time in years, I wasn't running on caffeine and guilt. I was actually okay. Then I saw her. My mom was sitting on my front porch like she'd been waiting there for hours. Arms crossed, jaw clenched, sunglasses perched on her head, even though it was cloudy. Her car was parked half on my lawn, half on the curb. I parked the truck, stepped out, and didn't say a word. She stood up, pointing at me before I even made it to the steps. Do you have any idea what you've done? I sighed, dropped my bag by the door. Hi, Mom. I'm good. Thanks for asking. Don't you start with that attitude, Ian, she snapped. You humiliated this family. Do you have any idea how embarrassing it was for your sister to explain what you did? People at the airport were staring at us. Maybe they were impressed you finally had to parent your own grandkids, I said, unlocking my front door. She gasped like I just cursed in church. You threw away a perfectly planned family trip. I paid for everything, and you just walked away. Yup, you wasted my money, she yelled, stepping closer. Do you know how much that vacation cost? Thousands. You owe me the full amount back. I turned around slowly, dead calm. You're not getting a cent from me. Her eyes widened. Excuse me? You heard me, I said. You spent that money by choice. You didn't ask me before booking, and I didn't ruin your vacation. You ruined your own by expecting me to play babysitter again. She folded her arms tighter, her voice rising. I did it for you, for family. For once, I wanted everyone together. Together? I said. You mean all together while I do the work? That's not family, Mom. That's free labor. Before she could answer, I heard tires crunching on the gravel. Kimberly's car whipped into my driveway like a cop car. She jumped out, hair in a messy bun, face red like she'd been practicing her angry expression in the mirror. Unbelievable, she shouted before she even closed her door. You abandoned us. The kids were hysterical. Do you have any clue how stressful that was for me? I raised an eyebrow. Sounds like parenting. One of my kids went missing for 10 minutes, she yelled, waving her hands. 10 minutes. Do you understand how traumatic that was? I didn't flinch. That's a skill issue. Shouldn't you be looking after your own kids? Silence. The look on her face was priceless, like she'd just realized her usual guilt trip software didn't work on this version of me. Kimberly sputtered, You're heartless. No, I said. I'm just not your doormat anymore. Mom jumped in, tears suddenly appearing on cue. Ian, listen to yourself. You've turned cold. You're not the same boy I raised. Good, I said, because the boy you raised didn't have a spine. That one hit. She blinked fast, her mouth opening and closing like she was buffering for a comeback. Don't talk to your mother that way, she said finally, voice trembling. After everything I've done for you? You mean after everything you've controlled? I said. Every time I tried to live my own life, you guilted me with that same line. Don't be like your father. Guess what? He might have left, but at least he walked away from the insanity, starting to think he had the right idea. Her expression twisted into shock. Kimberly looked at me like she couldn't decide whether to yell or cry. You've lost your mind. You're not my son, Mom said quietly. No, I replied, stepping past them. I finally found it. I reached my front door, opened it, and turned back once. I told you if this turned into a setup, I'd leave. You didn't believe me. Now you can believe it. Kimberly threw her hands up. You're such a jerk. We had to cancel everything because of you. Phil had to take extra days off work. We're out thousands. Then maybe you should stop planning vacations around other people's free labor, I said. She made this frustrated growl, stomped back to her car, and slammed the door so hard it shook. You're dead to me, Ian, she yelled out the window before peeling off. Mom stayed a few seconds longer, staring at me like I was supposed to crumble and apologize. When I didn't, she finally said, You'll regret this. Family doesn't turn its back on family. I leaned against the doorframe. You're right. Family doesn't. Users do. That shut her up. She stormed off to her car, muttering under her breath, probably about how I'd changed. I waited until she drove off before closing the door behind me. The house went quiet. No yelling, no crying, no chaos. Just stillness. I dropped my keys on the table, sat on the couch, and let out a long breath. For years, I thought keeping peace meant doing whatever they wanted. Turns out peace sometimes means burning bridges and not rebuilding them. And man, it never felt better. For about a week, life was quiet. I worked a few shifts, caught up on sleep, and didn't hear a single word from my family. It was beautiful. No guilt texts, no urgent calls, no emotional blackmail. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd finally gotten the message. Then I got a ping on my phone. A buddy from high school sent me a screenshot with the message. Bro, is this your sister? Oh, it was. Kimberly had gone full social media meltdown mode. A long Facebook post, paragraphs deep, tagged with dramatic emojis, and a picture of her kids looking sad at the airport. How could someone like my brother be a paramedic with such a cruel heart? He ditched me and my children at the airport and left us stranded. I thought family meant something. I guess I was wrong. The best part? They still boarded their flight without me. Stranded. My butt. Oh, but she didn't stop there. She posted it in the neighborhood Facebook group, the local moms forum, and even the community buy-sell trade page for some reason. He's supposed to save lives for a living, but he couldn't even be there for his own family. What kind of person walks away from 5 crying kids? The comments started rolling in fast, and not the kind she wanted. Wait, why was a paramedic babysitting your kids? Hold up, you left your kids at the airport? This sounds like a you problem, not your brother's. Lady, you're mad your grown brother didn't want to be your nanny? My favorite one said, maybe he's saving lives, not snacks. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. The internet was doing God's work that day. Within hours, her post had hundreds of comments and zero sympathy. Kimberly tried replying to defend herself, but it just made things worse. Eventually, she deleted everything. No apology, no accountability, just poof, gone. Classic Kimberly move. 2 weeks later, I got the text I'd been expecting from Mom. We're having dinner Friday night. Everyone will be there. It's time to fix this mess. Fix this mess in Mom's language meant, everyone tell Ian he's wrong until he apologizes. And I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. If nothing else, I wanted to see what excuse they'd come up with this time. The restaurant was one of those upscale steakhouses with too much mood lighting and prices that made you question your life choices. When I walked in, I spotted them right away. Mom sitting stiffly at the head of the table, Kimberly and Phil on one side, and my dad's mother, Grandma Ruth, on the other. That surprised me. Grandma Ruth had always been neutral territory, kind, quiet, and hard to read. Mom said she invited her as a neutral witness, whatever that meant, which already told me how this dinner was going to go. I walked over, and Mom gave me that tight smile people use when they're pretending not to be furious. Ian, she said, like my name tasted bitter. Glad you could make it. Kimberly didn't even look up. Phil gave a half-hearted nod. I sat down and waited. Kimberly broke first. You owe us an apology, she said flatly. You humiliated this family. You made me look like a fool in front of everyone. You ruined our image. Your image? I said, smirking. Pretty sure you handled that yourself when you turned Facebook into your diary. Her face went red. That's not the point. You embarrassed Mom. You embarrassed me, and you cost us thousands. I leaned back in my chair. Funny thing, while you were losing your mind, I was actually having a real vacation. First one in my life, actually. No crying kids, no guilt trips, no fake apologies, just peace. Mom inhaled sharply, like she couldn't believe I said it out loud. You've changed, she said, shaking her head. You're acting like your father. I smiled. If standing up for myself means that, maybe he was onto something. That made her snap. Don't you dare defend that man. He abandoned us. He abandoned me. Or maybe you drove him off, I said calmly. Just like you've tried to do with me. The table went dead silent. Even the waiter froze halfway to us before deciding he wanted no part of that energy. Then Grandma Ruth spoke for the first time all night. Enough. Her voice was quiet, but sharp. Everyone turned toward her. Margaret, she said, looking straight at my mom, you've blamed everyone else for your problems for 20 years. You did it to my son, and now you're doing it to my grandson. I won't sit here and let you tear him down too. Mom's jaw dropped. You're taking his side? Ruth nodded once. I'm taking the side of the only person at this table who's telling the truth. Kimberly whispered something to Phil, probably about how unbelievable this was. Mom stood up suddenly, face flushed. So you did turn out like him after all, she spat, voice shaking. Ungrateful. Cold. Just like your father. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, muttering to herself as she went. For a few seconds, no one said anything. The sound of silverware clinking and quiet jazz from the speakers filled the space. Grandma Ruth looked at me and smiled gently. She'll calm down eventually. She always does. Kimberly rolled her eyes. Yeah, whatever. You two can play the victim together. She stood up, tugged on Phil's sleeve, and walked out too. I just sat there, staring at my plate. I should have been angry, but I wasn't. I was done. Ruth leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. Ian, she said, your father's been trying to reach you. I froze. What? She nodded. He called me a few weeks ago. Said he didn't know how to contact you. He wants to see you. I didn't know what to say. My mind went blank. For years, I'd painted him as the villain, the ghost who walked out and never looked back. Ruth put a hand on mine. He's not the man your mother made him out to be. He made mistakes, yes, but he didn't abandon you the way you think he did. I just sat there, staring at the tablecloth, trying to process it. After dinner, Ruth gave me his number, scribbled on a napkin. Think about it, she said before heading out. I walked out to the parking lot alone, the night air cool and quiet. I sat in my truck, staring at that napkin on the passenger seat. My stomach knotted. For the first time in years, I didn't feel angry. I just felt curious. Maybe the truth wasn't what I'd been told all this time. I turned the key in the ignition, the headlights flicking on, and just sat there for a while, letting it sink in. My mother's voice, my sister's drama, my grandmother's words, all of it blurred together. I didn't know what would come next, but for the first time, I wanted to find out. A few weeks passed before I worked up the nerve to call the number Grandma Ruth gave me. I'd dial it halfway, then hang up. Part of me still heard Mom's voice in my head. He left us. He didn't care. Don't ever be like him. But the other part of me, the one that finally stopped believing everything she said, wanted answers. One quiet Sunday morning, I just did it. I called. The phone rang 3 times before a rough but steady voice answered. Hello? This is Ian, I said. Ian Miller. There was a pause. A long one. Then I heard him exhale. Ian. We didn't talk long. Just enough to agree on a place. A small cafe outside the city, halfway between us. Neutral ground. He offered to come my way, but I told him I'd drive. Maybe I needed that time alone before seeing him. When I pulled into the parking lot that Friday afternoon, my stomach was tight. I spotted him before he saw me, sitting by the window with a coffee cup in his hands. Older than I remembered, gray at the temples, same tired eyes I saw in the mirror every morning after a long shift. He looked up when the door chimed, and for a second, it was like time froze. Ian, he said, standing up. Hey, I replied. We shook hands, awkward, stiff, but it was something. He gestured to the chair. You hungry? Just coffee, I said. We sat there for a minute in silence. He looked like he wanted to say 100 things at once, but didn't know where to start. Finally, he sighed and said, You probably want answers. That'd be a good place to start, I said. He nodded. You deserve them. He took a breath. I didn't leave because I didn't care. I left because I couldn't survive it anymore. Your mom, she wasn't the person she pretended to be. She wanted control over everything. What I did, where I worked, who I talked to. If I disagreed with her, She'd threatened to take you and your sister and disappear. I didn't interrupt. I just let him talk. She told me I was a failure every day, that I wasn't good enough for you kids. One night, I packed a bag just to clear my head. I was gone for 2 days. When I came back, the locks were changed. She filed a restraining order, told everyone I abandoned you, said I moved out of state. He shook his head slowly. I tried to call. Dozens of times. I sent letters. Birthdays, Christmas, every year. She blocked my number, sent everything back unopened. I tried reaching Kimberly once, but your mom called the cops saying I was harassing her. I thought if I kept pushing, I'd make life harder for you. Your grandma Ruth believed her for a while. That's why I didn't reach out to her till now. The weight of it hit me hard. All those years of believing one side of the story. Every time Mom said, "Don't be like your father," she was really saying, "Don't question me." He looked down into his cup. I should have fought harder. I know that. I told myself I'd wait until you were grown and could decide for yourself. Then one day I woke up, and you were grown. I thought maybe it was too late. I didn't know what to say. Anger and sadness were fighting inside me, neither winning. You know what hurts the most? I said quietly. I hated you for half my life. Every time she said your name, I thought about how you walked out and never looked back. And now I'm realizing none of it was true. He nodded. You had every reason to hate me. I just wish you'd had the truth. We sat there for a while, neither of us talking. Just the clink of spoons and the hum of conversation around us. Eventually, the tension started to fade. He asked about my job, and for the first time, I actually wanted to talk about it. I told him about crazy shifts, near misses, and the time I delivered a baby in an ambulance. He laughed, said I got my calm under pressure from him. Then he told me what he'd been doing. Working as a mechanic, living a quiet life. No social media, no drama. By the time the waitress refilled our coffees for the third time, it didn't feel awkward anymore. It felt normal. Like two people who'd missed a lot of years, but were trying to catch up. When it was finally time to leave, we walked out to the parking lot together. The sun was low, painting everything gold. He turned to me, hands in his pockets. You've done good, son, he said softly. You didn't turn into me. You just became your own man. I looked at him for a second, then said, maybe I turned into the version of you that never got a chance. He smiled at that. Small, proud, a little sad, a little. Then he pulled me in for a hug. It wasn't long or dramatic, just real. When I got back to my truck, I sat there for a while before starting the engine. For the first time, the puzzle pieces made sense. All the anger, the guilt, the confusion, it finally fit somewhere. I drove home with the windows down, the night air cutting through the quiet. I didn't know what would happen next, whether I'd see him again soon or not, but I knew I wasn't carrying the weight anymore. For once, I wasn't the fixer, the babysitter, or the punching bag. I was just Ian, finally standing on my own terms. And as I pulled into my driveway, headlights washing over the house, I realized something that made me laugh under my breath. I'd spent years saving everyone else's life. Turns out, the hardest rescue was my own. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.